Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to The Opinion. I'm your host, Ethan, and with me is my loyal co-host. Allow him to introduce himself real quick.
Hey Ethan, how's it going?
I'm good, man. Thanks for asking. Thanks.
Good deal, man.
Ready to make a high quality show with you today, buddy.
Yeah, it's been a busy week. March is here, and we know how that goes every March. So I know there's a lot we got to get into.
Oh yeah, just went through Selection Sunday a few days ago. The bracket is out. Everyone's looking at it. I've looked at it a little bit myself. I've made some picks. Went on
Of
ESPN
course.
Tournament Challenge. I filled out a few. I had the robot fill out a few. That's fun to do as well.
Right. Yeah, I mean, especially with that NFL free agency as well. It's been a whirlwind. The World Baseball Classic as well. I mean, we got a lot to dive into today, man. A lot to update on.
It's every sport. There's something going on, and it's a good time to be a sports fan.
It's the best time of year to be a sports fan. We got a ton of the sports going.
That's right. Let's roll into our local sports update.
Of course, Ethan. Thank you. Thank you very much. Your local sports update for Wednesday, March 15th, 2023. So, the Pistons, they had a pretty modest week. They did end their 10-game losing streak. They went 1-2 since the last time we talked. Their record for the season 16-54. So we're approaching the end of the season for them. And not much has changed with them too much. The Red Wings, they had another 1-2 week since we talked last. They sit at 30, 28, and 9. Still a couple slots out of the playoffs here. It appears that it's not going to be their year, so not too much has changed for them as well. The Tigers, they played 5 games in 5 days. So they had a 3-2 week. They're at 11-9 for spring training. Doesn't mean too much, but it is good to see. The roster's getting finalized. We'll know who's going to be in Toledo, who's going to be starting in April at Comerica for us. And the Lions, they've been busy this week. They signed Cameron Sutton. He's a cornerback. They signed David Montgomery, Emmanuel Mosley, and they also brought back Alex Anzalone. So on top of all the other free agency that's been going on, the Lions were extremely busy this week, and you can tell that they're building a roster that's going to be ready to compete next year. And they targeted 2 corners they brought in, and they obviously felt that was a big weakness on the team last year, so that's going to be really good for them. Michigan basketball, they're in the NIT tournament. They've had a game last night against Toledo. They won the game 90-80, so they're going to be moving on to the next round. Saturday versus Vanderbilt. They play it at noon Eastern time, and it's going to be a great game. Michigan wants to keep that momentum rolling. Obviously, it's not what they wanted to be in the NIT, but they came out last night to show they had a lot of heart. Played like they wanted to be there. They wanted to win, so it's good to see for them. We'll see where that takes them. As far as for Michigan State, they take USC on Friday at 12:15. So it's going to be the first game of the day on Friday, and it's a very close spread right now for the betting people out there. I think MSU is favored by maybe 1.5 or 2 points. And so expect a really close game. Michigan State's looking to move on. They're going to be facing the winner of Marquette and who else? 15 side there. Marquette and Vermont. So whoever wins that will be taking on the winner of this game. So that is your local sports update from me. Ethan, we'll take it over. We'll head back into our topics here.
All right, folks. So I have a pretty nice little segment about Oral Roberts University. So this was the 15-seeded team from 2 years ago that made the Sweet 16. They're back in the tournament, and this time around, they're at a respectable 12 seed. All right, their first round matchup is going to be tomorrow night against Duke. This team has got 30 wins. All right, that's no easy feat, and they're a clear outlier in their conference. All right. South Dakota State was awarded second place in the Summit League, and they were 11 wins behind the Golden Eagles. Oral Roberts University was able to win their conference on a buzzer beater. It's the 17th game that they've won in a row. All right, this small school is a top tier basketball team. They are a wolf in sheepskin. Paul Mills is their coach. He's a Texas native, no stranger to the game. All right, this is his sixth year being the head coach of the Eagles. Prior to that, he worked at Baylor for 14 years as an assistant coach. One of his key players is Connor Vinover. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but he's a 7'5" center, and he plays over half the game. He averages 3 blocks, 12 points. His shooting is highly efficient, 46%, 34% from behind the arc. This is a 7'5" dude getting three blocks a game, shooting 3 pointers. What do you think about that, Brandon? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I really like that, man. Especially last season, watching them take down the Buckeyes. I mean, it was pretty beautiful. And I mean, it's hard to look over a team that's won 17 in a row, man. I mean, it doesn't matter what conference you're playing in. That's an extremely difficult task.
Dude, this team is just so good on defense. Even so, they got him. They
Yeah,
got that guy, the guard. They got Carlos Jurgens. He's a dude from Estonia. He's utilized quite often. He plays about half the game. They got Max Abmas. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but he's another guy. He's gonna give Duke problems. He likes to shoot from deep. He's like Dame Lillard. He's like LaMelo Ball type thing. He likes to shoot from way deep. He's got
yeah,
Curry range.
yeah. And that 7'5" center too. I've heard that he's caused trouble all year. Like you said, the ability to step out and make 3-pointer, 3 blocks a game. He's a matchup nightmare. I don't care, what division you're in or who you played. I mean, it's gonna be one heck of a battle. And I know Duke's equally as hot, you could argue, but they're gonna have their hands full. It's gonna be a lot closer than people think. I
Well,
really
this is
think.
also a 12 versus 5 match. You know how those go.
Yeah, every year you got to assume. I mean, there's always. I feel like frequently there's always one or two. A very popular take. I mean, just keep your eyes peeled. That's all we're saying. It's gonna be a
Yeah, I'm
really
not a
close
gambling
game.
man, but if I was, I'd bet money on Oral Roberts to win this game tomorrow. They're only giving them 6 points.
Yeah, that's what I
So
was gonna say. I was gonna say it's only at 5.5 right now, so that's interesting. Very interesting.
it's going to
It's a
be a
30-win
game.
team. It's a 30-win team.
Yeah, that's not easy
Um,
to do. Even when you're in, a garbage conference like that, you still got to beat
yeah,
them. You still got to be
exactly.
on
I
point
mean,
30
and if
games in a
you
row.
Yeah, exactly. And if you've won with those kind of like you've won with your guys 30 times, they're gelling right now. The whole team has got to be
That's
gelling.
right. That's
So,
right.
um, first thing I wanted to talk about is I did have a couple more March Madness topics I wanted to hit on. Um, Obviously, March Madness is here. I have a couple championship contenders, and then of course I have some sleepers. One of my sleeper picks was Oral Roberts, as you described. You fairly described that 100% accurately as to why. And then another team I have on there is Penn State. They're a 10 seed right now, but they're coming in very hot. They've won 8 of 10. I believe they're on a 6-game win streak right now, so they're coming into the tournament very hot. They did end up losing in the Big Ten championship final to end their 5-game lose streak, or it's 5-game winning streak. I apologize. So, they did get humbled a little bit, but they're a hot team out of the Big Ten. They played some tough games down the road near the end of the season. There, they pulled them out, they scrapped them out, and they're playing Texas A&M, which is a really respectable team. But I would just say Penn State. I'd keep the eye on them. They're a good team
But
coming out of
that's
the
a
Big
team I
Ten.
think they can beat, honestly. I
I
mean,
do
Penn
too.
State's a good team. We've been watching them play all year. They're good. They're
I know.
they're they're a good team.
I know, and they were kind of struggling with mediocrity all year, but then during the end of the season, they hit their stride at the right time. Um, and you can tell like they started to roll, and it really they're hitting their stride, and they're heading to March, coming out of the Big Ten. I mean, shoot, keep an eye on them. And another sleeper I have as well is Kent State. Kent State's taking on Indiana, and I like Kent State had a similar season to Oral Roberts. You know, they were in a smaller conference. But that doesn't take anything away. They're a 28-6 team. They took Houston to the wire at Houston a couple times. They're on a 6-game win streak. They won their conference. They beat the 1-seeded Toledo in the conference game. Kent State, the at-large, playing Indiana first round. They're a 13 seed. Just keep your eyes peeled as another sleeper in March Madness.
Yeah, there's a lot of good small teams that I think are going to give problems to these bigger schools. Like that one team playing Baylor, the UC Santa Barbara, I think the Guanchos, they score over half of their possessions. Like that's a small school,
It's
but come on.
incredible. Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of it is the COVID year gave those smaller schools guys like an extra year of eligibility. And I think that might have played in just a little bit for the next couple of years as you know, that filters out of the classes and stuff. But yeah, it gives a lot of those guys maybe an extra year. So there's going to be a lot more experience coming in for these mid-major teams. As we saw a lot of it last year too, with the 12-13 upsets, and they go far. I mean, obviously St. Peter's with an incredible run to the Elite Eight. You just never know. I think I completely agree with that, and we'll see who's this year's Cinderella is going to be. I do have some favorites if you want to hear my bracket favorites.
I would like to hear.
All right, so I think the betting favorite right now is Houston, and for me personally, I think that they are the favorite. I know it's very mainstream, but they have a great team, man, and tournament Houston teams have been incredible. They've always been underseeded. They've always made deep runs, and that tells me it's a sign of good culture, good coaching. And I think, even though, you know, not playing a tough schedule, that's what a lot of people were saying. They only have 4 quad one wins, this and that, but they still ended up like you said, a 30-win team. They got a ton of high recruits. They played a good talent all year. Yeah, it would just be very surprising to not see them go very far. But my second team on here would be Alabama. Alabama, the number 1 overall seed in the tournament. You know, they have a pretty good path to get to the championship, to the Final Four. They have Brandon Miller, very talented, one of the top players going to be in the draft. I believe that helps a lot as far as, you know, tournament play and everything like that. And finally, my last team, I'm going to go with Kansas. I think Kansas, even though they won it last year, and it's extremely difficult to repeat, they are very, very balanced. They're very deep, and obviously they're bringing back a ton of experience from last year. So when there's not a lot of really good teams, the teams aren't that top heavy. There's probably, you know, a good 5 or 10 that could win it. Really, it's going to be survival of the fittest. Who's not going to lose? It's not who's going to win, but it's who's not going to lose. And I think that could be Kansas once again. So I'd like to hear what you think about those ones, Ethan, those 3. And if you have anything else, any other sleepers or any other favorites you think you could come up like in mind that you saw. I mean, what do you think, man? What are you seeing in this field?
There's a few other teams too that I think still have a very solid chance of winning the big tournament. We got Gonzaga, Arizona, UCLA is a team that I'm surprised you didn't mention. Now, how do you feel about Purdue? Everyone is saying Purdue this year. A lot of people got Purdue taking it all.
I like Gonzaga. Great coaching. You know, they know how to handle it, experience a similar thing.
Gonzaga's a solid team every year, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as Purdue, man, I'm just not feeling that great on it. They have a really young backcourt. I know, without getting too much detail, they're just you kind of really need that in March Madness. And Zach Edey is he's the Big Ten Player of the Year. He had an amazing season. He's a very talented player, and he's a force. But however, in the tournament, you're going to be, getting officials from the Big 12. You're going to be getting officials from the SEC to do your games. They're not going to be called as tightly. The first round is going to be called pretty similar to the regular season, but every single round that goes on, it gets called looser every round. You know that. That's how the tournament works. It's just how the officiating works in the tournament. So I feel like that's just going to work against them, man. They're young in the backcourt, and when Edie's been shut down, it's like who's been there to step up for him, and it's usually been a shared load, and I'm just not sure that's going to be quite enough. If a team shuts down, gets physical enough with Edie, you're talking a second round matchup potentially with Memphis, who's probably just as physical as they are, and have the guys bigger, talented, even though they might not be as organized and coached as highly as Purdue, but you just never know. It just takes one game. So that's really the only thing that I'm shying away from Purdue on, unfortunately, because I'd love for the Big Ten to get a championship.
I'm not saying that Kentucky is gonna win the whole thing, but I think that we're gonna see them go deep again this year. I think
It's not a bad thought. It's not a
six
bad
is
thought,
kind of
dude.
low for them, honestly.
It is, and it's been kind of an underwhelming season all year for Kentucky. I think they're very high ceiling, but it's also like a low floor team as well. Like they could be a first round exit, but they could also be a Final Four run in them. Just because of the talent, they have the talent there. The coaching, Calipari, he's there. They're blue blood. You know what I mean? You can always expect something out of them. But this season, they've just been so up and down and topsy-turvy. We're just going to have to wait and see what they have in them. But I like that.
Right. What do you think about that USC Michigan State matchup? Who you got there?
Well, I am taking the Spartans in that one. USC, the Pac-12 was a little bit weak this year, I think. And MSU, this is the time of year they get hot, and this is Izzo's time. They've been 25 straight tournaments this year, which is obviously a very good feat. I like them in this game. They were in a similar spot last year, and they pulled it off. And that'd be really good for them. It's going to be a tough second round matchup, probably against Marquette. But we'll see, man. I'm really liking them. I'll take the Spartans. Give me the Spartans. All right. So my team, the New York Giants, they made some news yesterday. They traded pick 100 to the Raiders for tight end Darren Waller. And as you know, Darren Waller, he's been struggling with injuries recently, but he's still one of the top tight ends in the league when healthy. This is a great trade for the Giants. I'm going to read to you Darren Waller's 20-plus yard catches by year. 2019, he had 14. In 2020, he had 16. In 2021, he had 13 in 11 games. In 2022, he had 9 in 9 games. This past season, Darius Slayton had 12, and no other Giants player had more than 3 20-plus yard plays. So they were lacking explosive plays badly, and they got exactly what they needed in a powerful playmaking tight end, Darren Waller. So I think it's going to be a great addition for Daniel Jones. It's given him weapons. Let's see what he can do with them. Waller, who's kind of been on and off the field recently with the Raiders. I know they've been dealing with a little bit of coaching, button heads here and there. Gives him a fresh start. The Giants traded a 4th-round pick for him. Third round pick. And that was the Kadarius Toney pick. So that's the pick they got in the trade for him. So they basically swapped a Kadarius Toney for Darren Waller. And I think it's a great move for them. I'm really interested, really excited to see him play. What do you think of that, Ethan? I mean, it was obviously a blockbuster move. A lot of people posting about it. We saw about it.
It works out really well for the Giants, I believe. Giving Danny more targets, it's going to help him out immensely. And it's also, he's also a renowned run blocker. at that tight end spot, and it's going to help out Saquon in that line up front quite a bit having him there. So he's just going to be a great player for their offense. And I think that it's a good trade for both teams, really.
Yeah, and I think it was a position of need, really bad. I know they need that blocking, like you said, that physical body. He's fast. He can get those aggressive catches. I mean,
I
I'm
mean, he's an
excited, man.
athletic guy. I've
He
seen
really
his
is.
tape. He's
He
fun to
really is.
watch too.
Yeah, he's highlight reel, especially on a team that lacked explosive plays so badly. This is exactly what they needed. Absolutely.
Saquon's going to be that guy too, and he's helping out block for him. And
Yeah, and that even it might take more coverage off Saquon and goes right to Waller instead.
that's right.
Just frees it up out there. Opens the field up, let Dimes chuck some balls downfield. And I was watching some of the highlights too, and Carr's just missing him badly, underthrowing him. It was just ugly. So I'm hoping Jones can be a little bit more accurate for him as well. I think that could have been another reason he, may have had some slight issue there. Who knows?
Also, who the Raiders get at their QB spot, to replace Derek.
They signed Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
Jimmy G. So he's going to be, facilitating. I mean, he's got Josh Jacobs. He's got Devontae Adams. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll
I mean
see,
it's a
man. Why
good
not?
it's a good offense they got over there.
He's been proven he can make the throws if he can stay healthy. I mean, all he's done is just win. So
That's very true. He's
I
an
like it.
exciting player.
And they got him for about 22 million a year, dude. So they have a lot of room to spend.
Very nice.
It's a very fair deal, I felt. All right, so you want a World Baseball Classic update?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so we're just going to do a little World Baseball Classic update. So the United States of America are 2-1 in group stage. They have a game tonight versus Colombia. And if they win, they advance to the knockout round just straight up. If they lose, then they're going to need it's going to come down to some tiebreakers, some runs scored, runs allowed to get them to the next round. Either way, so you just want to take care of business tonight versus Colombia. They had the day off yesterday, so they're going to be ready to rock and roll. The United States, they beat UK, and they bitch slapped Canada. And then they ended up losing to Mexico on Sunday night. I apologize. So they ended up losing them. Mexico just wanted it more. They're right there and up in the standings as well with the United States. In the knockout stages, they started today in the other groups. In the Group C, which is the group that USA is in, the winner will be playing on the 17th or the 18th. It'll just depend on scheduling. Whoever wins and the runner-up will get a position as well. They'll get a harder winner, obviously. So, yeah, let's take care of business tonight. Looks like USA's really hitting their form. They needed that day off. Comes at a great time for them. They can really leave it all on the table. The pitching's been good. And I'm really excited, man. Once the knockout stages start, this is when the action starts to get going for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what the USA team can do. There's a lot of big names on there, and we need to make a splash at this World Baseball Classic.
I'm feeling good about it, man. I'm really excited to see. I'll be watching tonight. Tune in, Fox Sports 1.
All right, that's it.
But yeah, everyone, thank you for tuning in tonight. Thanks for listening to us ramble about nonsense. Get your brackets in. Brackets locked tomorrow. And you best believe we'll be back with more juicy update and more juicy content. Ethan, anything else you'd like to say before we sign off tonight?
Make sure you get your brackets in. I've been Ethan.
Yeah.
This has been Brandon, and we are the Opinion.
The Opinion.